Greetings, it's Adam with the Rata Non Grata, and recently I attended the Utah Retro GameXpo at the Davis Conference Center, which is in Layton, Utah. If you have no idea where that is, northern Utah. It's north of Salt Lake City, about 40-ish minutes. And at this event, there was lots of retro gaming goodness. We'll give you a tour here shortly. And there was some YouTubers, I think, is it John Riggs? That's one, but Game Dad show and some others. But there was also the Mortal Kombat crew from the cast of the original Mortal Kombat. But before we get to that, let's take a look around the arcade. The games on tap were furnished by a local arcade, not my own, called Flynn's Retrocade. There was Galaga, Gradius, and the real Ghostbusters on the side, Street Fighter II, Donkey Kong, Stun Runner by Atari Games, Dig Dug, Bandito, Load Runner, Centipede. I guess I walked around a little too fast there. And then the new Asteroids arcade, or Asteroids Recharged arcade. And then another guy brought his own personal collection of Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, Magic Sword, and a few other games, and Neo Geo 6 slot. This was the retro tournament area where there was a lot of competitions going on across a bunch of different games. A local computer museum was what you saw there, and they actually had a PlayStation set up on a super, super tiny screen, and a 3DO where I got to play Road Rash for the first time, and a Sega Genesis with the Sega CD. But the thing that caught my attention the most, because back in the day, I was quite a player of Quake and Doom on either LAN or over the internet with dial-up, or I had a friend whose dad was in IT, and they had a pretty good internet connection. I think it was cable, but this would be like late 90s cable. But having a LAN with some Pentium 2, or there was a Celeron computer there with CRTs. This particular CRT was the best quality one. It was a little smaller than the others, but you could see the difference just standing there, and that sort of comes across on the video here. But that was a lot of fun. I think you wanted to have, the guy who set this up wanted to have 4 PCs, but I think something was wrong with one of them, so it was just 3. I found myself hopping onto the LAN and fragging some guys quite frequently, and I did win a few times. Here's one of those other CRTs where you can see that the refresh rate is different, so it's a little more flickery. And then there was this one on the other side where it also has a couple of little effects, but yeah. Either way, LAN gaming is a favorite of mine. It used to be, at least here in Utah, that there were a lot of LAN centers. In fact, when I opened my arcade back in the day, another one of those, I had a LAN for a few years, up until the local library started offering computers and people stopped coming, which was a little weird. I wouldn't think that they would offer any serious hardcore gaming, but it seems like they did, because I just stopped getting people because they could go to the library and play for free. Let's move on from some awesome Quake, as it is. Okay, so let's take a walk around the convention, the expo. I will say up front, I'm not happy with my camera work here. I'm kicking myself as I've been editing this that I went way too fast in a lot of instances. I think what it was at the second was, it's like I was seeing something that's like, that doesn't have much to do with games, like Funko Pops and some certain things like that I don't really care about, and so I just kind of whipped around. But I did remove some of the whipping arounding. There's some famous YouTubers over there on the left that people could go and chat with, get an autograph, all that. And then there were lots and lots of games. Now, I know a lot of you are here for the Atari stuff, and unfortunately there wasn't a ton of Atari cartridges around. There were some 2600 games. I did not see any Lynxes. Definitely nothing from the Atari computer lines, 8-bit, 16, 32-bit, any of those. One thing that surprised me was how many booths were selling old toys. And there were quite a few throwbacks that you would find there. And here's one of those shots where I apologize if you get vertigo from me swaying the camera around. But if you're into Nintendo, particularly, there was lots to find at this expo. There were some modded consoles like here, the modded PS2, Wii, all sorts of stuff with HDMI out on them, so that was pretty cool. Surprisingly enough, when I was filming this was not long after the show opened, maybe after an hour open on a Friday. And I was surprised how busy it was on Friday, just because this would have been when a lot of people would have been at work still. But I guess some people got it off or something. So there's some places that have toys and stuff. I guess I should have focused a little bit more on that lady who had knitted those cool video game designs. And so apologies to anybody where I didn't really get it, 3D printing stuff there. Yeah, like I said, I'm not happy with my own camera work on this one. And so next time I'll have to make sure I take it a lot slower, focus on things a little bit more. I should know better. I've done a lot of videos on walking through arcade booths and stuff, and that's usually what I do. But I guess this would have been the first time that I've done a convention like this where things are a lot more cramped and there's a lot more people walking around, and sometimes you got to just speed the camera movement up. And there's lots of mid-sections in this video. I could almost call this the Utah mid-section video. Utah mid-section expo. And see what people's bodies are sort of like. Most PlayStation games under $10, I think that said. And so, yeah, there was a few booths that had some stuff like that. PlayStation 1 games, maybe some PS2 games, original Xbox games. I saw a Sega Saturn wrapped up for sale. It's like, almost might not mind buying one of those. Never had one, but wanted one back in its day. Of course, that's around the time where I really got into the Jaguar. There were several artists around there, local artists, so I don't know if anybody following this channel might follow some of these artists that you'll see, but a lot of them generally have stuff that are related to games or nerdy stuff. Talk nerdy to me. Other toys, Star Wars stuff. Zoom in there, and then oftentimes even in the toy booths you could find a stack of video games crammed in one nook here and there, and of course some card gaming, stuff like that, although there wasn't too much in the way of board games unless I just wasn't paying attention. There were some Sega games that you could see back there. Here's some of those old toys that I remember I was talking about, but I should have spent a moment looking more at that. And then some comic book creators were there, local artists again, making comic books or novels. That actually might have been, sorry, not comics. Just some of the cover art design might be along those lines in certain cases. Let's see, looked like some movies there along with some Game Boy stuff. Unfortunately, not all the booths had names easily identifiable on them as to which companies they were, and so I couldn't say what all of them, all of them might have been. Let's do a jump here, and we got some more Nintendo-related content and action figures, more midsection people stuff, Funko Pops that I don't really care about, an arcade one-up. There was, of course, the actual arcade room was around there, and then more Nintendo stuff, Switch, 3DS stuff. I should have spent more time looking at the 3DS stuff. I have one, I just haven't played it much in a while. Hey, an old PlayStation 1. I wonder how much that was going for. Not that I'd have any games for it, but I have a PS3. Need to get one of those PS3s, though, that has the backwards compatibility stuff in them, which I don't think mine does, but I've never tried it. And even more artwork stuff and friendly people. Plenty of game art right at that booth. And some more original NES games. And more art, more and more art. More Funko Pops. Probably trying to offload these because I've heard that they have a very difficult time selling a lot of that stuff because nobody cares. Everybody who did care already bought all this stuff. And there's another comic book creator, Kieran Comics. Unfortunately, I didn't spend enough time focusing on him, but Kieran Comics, he's a guy I talked to, great guy. He's a 7th grade English teacher in his normal job, his day job. And then there's some Steve from Minecraft. There was a few cosplayers around, but not a ton. And then some more PlayStation, Nintendo. I think there might have been some Sega games in that booth, but it's mostly PlayStation and Nintendo stuff. Some bins with the cheap games in them, if you wanted those. I should have looked through that, because it was cheap. And that's the nice thing about color coding the game boxes on a lot of that stuff, was at least you could know, like seeing those green ones, you know those are Xbox 360 games or original Xbox games, or Wii U games that I think I saw there a second ago. Didn't see too much in the way of Wii U, really. More artists, more Nintendo. There's the Virtual Boy up there. Didn't see what the price was on that, or don't know if I'd want to grab one of those, but hey, that booth had plenty of Nintendo to sell. Unfortunately, I just didn't catch what name they had. And here was a guy that was selling, I think, some game stuff plus cards, more Funko. I guess because it was cards, and that's not my deal here. I didn't spend much time on that. But they had a Pokewell to do some giveaways, and then this guy had a lot of game boxes or games for sale, of course. Over at this booth, in addition to some Nintendo stuff, I noticed that there was a little thing of Atari 2600 cartridges, some Intellivision boxes as well, as you see right there. Of course, they're all super common stuff from what I noticed, and so nothing really jumped out at me. Didn't end up buying any Atari cartridges or any games, really. I ended up buying some art trinkets for my daughters, but some Wii stuff and Switch. I guess I could have looked through some Switch stuff, see about finding a new game here and there. More Wii, some PS3 stuff, and 4, I think. Of course, as Sony and Microsoft move more and more away from using discs, that's one of the things I don't know if they really consider, is that when you don't have the physical media, you don't get the shelf space to show up. And of course, people can't resell digital games, so that sucks for us gamers. I guess the corporations don't give a flip, because we'll usually buy the same game 3 times over its lifetime or more. Can't remember what the averages are. And there was some Atari 2600 cartridges. I should have spent more time on that. I guess I was interested in that odd Pioneer thing. That booth on the next day actually had the white Jaguar model that had been used in some dentistry thing. But for some reason it wasn't there when I walked by. But I did see it the next day, so that was kind of amusing to see. This would be kind of cool to do. I don't know if anybody has. Maybe they have done a limited run of Jaguars using that casing and the white style. Or it would have been nice to have done like the N64 thing, do like different plastics, translucent stuff, do like a translucent red Jag. I think would have been pretty rad. There's the YouTubers. I ended up talking with Game Dad, the Game Dad show, Chris at the Game Dad show. He's a great guy. There was another guy there, not the John Riggs, but the other one, his name I didn't catch, who I did see filming on Saturday. He was walking around kind of doing this, but he was doing commentary as he did it, and probably smoother video, because he's used to doing those things, and I should have been more prescient or conscious of what I was seeing on the camera. I guess I was also trying to pay attention to where I was pointing. But here's something I'll shut up for.
Switch in there, Joy-Cons, so all the buttons interface with the Nintendo Switch. Put that in there and slide the Switch in, and you have the functional plunger and nudge. Not very good upside down. And this is the illuminated one, so works the same way, but has lights in it. And then you have your display field, which is difficult to do upside down. And that one's hooked up. These are the boxes that they come in. So they're a little pallet, and then the toppers are sold separately, and they come in little boxes like that.
That's pretty rad. So that's pretty cool. I'll probably have to post that on my Arcade Heroes channel. Otherwise, back to the vendors at the show. I think over there is more Pokemon stuff and things I just don't really care about. Some handhelds, unfortunately, like I said, no Atari representation on those. It's mainly Nintendo stuff, DS, 3DS, etc. And some art, lots of keychain artists and such. And some Hot Wheels toys and comic books. Now, coming up over here is Monsoon Studios, which I should have stopped and talked with him. He had his own NES and Atari 2600 game there. I was meaning to stop and have a chat with him. I just didn't get the chance to. I really wanted to try out his Atari 2600 game. That would have been perfect, especially for this channel. But I'll have to see if I can reach out. I mean, if he's local, then even better. But if he's not, then missed opportunity. But no, that pretty much covers the Utah Retro GameXpo. It's held annually at the same place up in Layton, Utah. But thanks for watching. Again, sorry about some of the shaky camera work. I'll do better next time. And we'll see you around.